with a classic example that from night to night in the month of February, when everybody knows a little bit more about everybody in your conference, it doesn't matter who you're facing sometimes. The crazy can happen this time of year. After a 16-point win over Illinois at Mackey Arena earlier this week, tonight, your final score from Ann Arbor, Michigan 82, Purdue 58. The Boilers' 6-game winning streak gone. They take their fourth loss and they take it in blowout fashion. Rob Dauster, what went wrong for the Boilermakers?
I think this was just kind of a situation where it was a little bit of a tough matchup for them, right? We've talked over and over on this show about the issues that Purdue has defensively, specifically in their defensive backcourt. That becomes a little bit more problematic when you go up against a team like Michigan that also is able to take advantage of what you do in the front court. Michigan was playing Hunter Dickinson and Moussa Diabate together. And those two big guys were able to take advantage of the fact that Purdue kind of wants to play 4 around 1, right? They want to play 4 guards. They want to be able to have 4 shooters around Zach Edey. So I think this was a combination of a beneficial matchup for Michigan on a night where they happened to shoot 12 for 21 from 3, while Purdue shot 4 for 18 from 3. To me, Ashton, this was just kind of like one of those nights. It happens in conference play.
Yeah, it happens in conference play, especially on the road. I thought Michigan, they really got the crowd into it, especially early in the game. And that's always tough in the middle of conference season. Hunter Dickinson played like a monster, and then you have Eli Brooks shooting the ball well from 3. And then defensively, I thought Michigan did a really good job defensively shutting down Stefanovic. And anytime Purdue doesn't shoot well from 3, it's going to be tough. You know, it makes it even tougher for Jaden Ivey to get downhill and attack gaps. And then, you talk about Williams and Zach Edey down low. It makes it easier to guard. So I thought Michigan did really well defensively. But anytime Purdue doesn't shoot the ball well from 3, it's going to be a tough night.
Look, there's not going to be many nights where these two things are occurring. Michigan shoots 12 of 21 from three-point land. Like, that's as good as Michigan has shot the basketball from beyond the arc all year. Tonight, Eli Brooks did not miss from 3, went 4 of 4. Hunter Dickinson went 4 of 6 in this game. And Caleb Houston went 4 of 6 from 3. That's your three-point shooting right there. And that getting accompanied by the Boilers going 4 for 18 from 3. But to me, Ashton, you bring up an interesting point, and I'm going to follow up with you on this. You said when Purdue's not hitting the 3, it can go in the wrong direction for them. Are you concerned that they're a little too reliant on the three-point shot?
A little bit, because it typically affects their defense. If they make shots, they end up playing well, playing even tougher defensively. If they don't make shots, you can tell it affects their defense. They start giving up straight line drives. All of a sudden, guys start getting open shots. You can just tell, and that's typical of any team. But if they really want to be a Final Four team, they really gotta nip that in the butt.
The only thing I would say about that is I think that Purdue's defense is always going to be what Purdue's defense is. They don't have great perimeter defenders. They don't have that one kind of lockdown guy that you can throw. I want Jaden Ivey to be that guy. I don't think that is that guy. And then whenever Zach Edey's on the floor, you're going to be a liability in ball screens. Like, I just kind of think they are what they are on that end. Now, the difference maker for them is the fact that they have a historically great offense. They're the number 1 team in offensive efficiency in college basketball this season. They are up there among the best offenses that we have seen since Ken Palm's database came into place. And on the nights where they don't make a lot of threes, like, it just kind of, it is what it is. Now, it didn't help either that Zach Edey was in foul trouble for most of this game and could barely see the floor. And also, can we just remember, like, Hunter Dickinson's really good. Like, there's a reason why he was a preseason first-team All-American. What did he finish with tonight? 22, 9, 4 dimes, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and 4 threes. Like, that dude. I don't love his big Dickinson energy celebration. Like, we need to work on that thing. We need to workshop that a little bit. You're still Hunter Dickinson, but he played really well tonight. He was allowed to do something dumb if he wanted to.
Yeah. Look, he's an All-American talent. I thought early in the season they were trying to figure out so much that Michigan almost sometimes forgot just how good Hunter Dickinson is. And if they didn't forget it, they were trying to figure out other roles that then it was almost getting lost in the shuffle at times that, hey, when in doubt, feed Hunter Dickinson the basketball. And tonight, he was getting touches. He was active from the start. Look, he punked Purdue's bigs. I mean, tonight, Hunter Dickinson was the best big man on the floor, which, heading into this season, gentlemen, we said, yeah, Kofi Cockburn in Illinois, but in the preseason, we were saying Michigan could be a top 5 team in the country, and the reason why is Hunter Dickinson. So the question now is, Rob, and I think that they are, but do you think Michigan will end up finding themselves on the big dance floor?
Oh, man, well, look, here's the spot that they're in right now, right? They are 2-5 against quadrant 1 opponents. They are 3-3 against quadrant 2. And they also have that home loss to Minnesota, which is going to be kind of the anchor on their resume. Their metrics are pretty good. They're top 50 in the net, and I'm sure that's going to end up going up as soon as it kind of recycles. Like I have the numbers I'm looking at are the numbers for before this game from the start of the day. They haven't refreshed yet. So we'll see where that ends up going. But I would say right now they're probably like right there on the cut line. If you were gonna tell me to choose between this Michigan team who has beaten, let me bring up their resume really quick to make sure I get this right. They've beaten Indiana on the road in convincing fashion. They've now beaten Purdue at home in convincing fashion, and they are 13-9 of the season. If you're going to give me that team versus a North Carolina team whose best win is at home against Virginia Tech,
yeah,
I think I probably lean towards Michigan getting in. Is that crazy? We're gonna play a little blind resume later on today, which I know you're gonna have fun with, Fanta. So
I can't wait. It's my favorite game. You ready, Ashton?
I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
Okay. But here's the thing. And by the way, Field of 68 After Dark, Sirius XM, Channel 84. We got a great show tonight. We are actually going to talk some mid-majors tonight. So if that's your thing, or if you're sitting there saying, well, that's not really my thing, let me tell you something. It better be your thing, because next month we're going to help you fill out a bracket here on the Field of 68. And there's a team right now that you need to know about. It's Murray State. We're going to talk to their head coach coming up on the show tonight. But we're talking right now about Michigan. I think now you beat Purdue. Now in 48 hours, can you keep it going? You're home again to Ohio State. Absolutely a winnable game, Bobby D. Like, that's a situation now where you got to move off this and be able to get another win in Ann Arbor. Because if you win that game over Ohio State, there's not many bubble teams that are putting up the kind of week that Michigan would be having with a win over Purdue and then a win over Ohio State.
You know what the problem is, though? You know, you go 2-0 this week by beating Purdue and Ohio State at home. Who are both top 25 teams, by the way. You get rewarded by going on the road to Iowa, who just scored 8,000 points. 8,000 points at Maryland. And then the next thing you get to do is you go on the road and you play Wisconsin and Johnny Davis. Like, okay. Congratulations, Michigan. That's what you get. That's what happens when you play in the in the Big Ten.
In Big Ten, yeah.
Isn't that true? Like, Ashton, I want to get your perspective on this, because you played in the Big East.
Big East, yeah.
And that was dog eat dog. I mean, every night was a battle. Give me this here, because the Big Ten fan is wondering this. Is there such a thing in which a conference beats itself up so much on the grind that then you do in mid-March, you feel the after effects of that? Is that a legitimate thing in a conference like this?
It's a legitimate thing. You know what I think the most underrated part is how the refs call the games. And when you talk about Big Ten play, you know, letting guys play and you know, the toughness of, you know, some of the battles, especially down low. You talk about, you know, these are some of the best bigs in the country. And then you get to mid-March and, you know, sometimes the refs are calling chippies, guys get in foul trouble, and it changes the whole dynamic of the game. So it really does affect the guys and, you know, just the grind, the day-to-day grind of practice, and then playing against a Wisconsin, then playing against a Ohio State. Those games, they catch up to you, man. But it's the beauty of competition. That's what these guys come to the Big Ten for. That's what you end up committing to a higher level school. And ultimately, if you want to be in the NBA, you want to play against the best players regardless.
Rob, what say you about this theory? Like, because I was on earlier this week with some of our pals, Jason Horowitz, Sean Farnham, and John Crispin, who do a good job covering the sports. And one of the things that's being talked about by hosts on Big Ten Today, that's on Sirius XM Channel 84, this is Field of 68 After Dark here on XM 84, is that, yeah, the Big Ten last year was the best conference in college basketball. But maybe by the time the NCAA tournament rolled around, there were some after effects that resulted in some negative results come tournament time. Like, what do you make of that theory and that idea heading into this NCAA tournament?
Well, I think a lot of what happens in the NCAA tournament is kind of a crapshoot. And I don't necessarily think there's a bad thing when it comes to losing. Like, sometimes you need to get punched in the mouth to realize what you're doing wrong. And the other part of it is, if you win a whole bunch of close games in a row, then sometimes like the flaws in what you're doing can kind of be papered over, right? You can kind of say, look, we're good. We'll figure it out because we just won all these games. Let's keep doing what we're doing. Let's keep doing what we're doing, instead of, taking a bad loss and saying, okay, look, we need to readjust. We need to figure this stuff out. Providence is a perfect example. They got punched in the mouth at Marquette. They haven't lost since. Right. So I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. And again, when it comes to college basketball, especially this year, there is nobody that is that much better than anyone else. Losses are going to happen. Mm-hmm. There's going to be times where Michigan, who has an All-American center, is going to shoot 12 for 21 from three. And Purdue, who also has a couple All-Americans on that roster, is going to end up shooting 4 for 18. And you're going to get these weird results on the road. It is what it is. I don't want to overreact too much to it, but it's kind of that this is what college basketball is. And here's one thing that one rant that I have about the way that college basketball is kind of viewed. Like, every game is kind of put into this big picture talking point where it's like, okay, let's repaint the narrative of an entire season off of one game. No, Purdue played like crap tonight.
Yes.
I think it's just kind of what it is. Michigan played their best game. Purdue played their worst game. It was on the road. It was at Michigan. These things happen. It's sports.
Yes. And by my understanding on Twitter, it was Purdue's fourth game in 7 days. So this has been quite a stretch for them. We had a tweet that came in from Boiler Don. I mean, if it's not their 4th and 7, they're in the midst of a 4th out of a week. This has been a busy week for Purdue. Unless Boiler Don, who tweeted into us, is giving me fake news right now. But Purdue, look, Purdue's one of the best teams in the country. On their best day, they're good enough to win a national championship. If 2 hours really turns your mind on a team, then you haven't been watching enough college basketball this season. Because Purdue is really, really good. They have an NBA lottery pick in Jaden Ivey. They have a legitimate 3, maybe 4 3-point shooters at any time in a game could go for 3 or 4 threes. And they have 2 trees who do things in different ways, but are big-time bigs in Travion Williams and Zach Edey. I think overall, the Purdue Boilermakers are going to be fine. Tonight, they got their clocks cleaned by a Michigan team that's been underperforming, but by a Michigan team that flat out is very desperate right now because they got to put a run together. All right.
Desperation is big, man. Like, people overlook the value of a team being desperate, especially one that actually has some talent. As much as we malign what this Michigan team has been this season, we can't overlook the fact that Caleb Houston is a top 15 recruit. Moussa Diabate is a top 15 recruit. Hunter Dickinson is an All-American. Eli Brooks is a dude that all of us loved last year. And Devontae Jones was like one of the 5 most sought out point guard transfers. It's not like there aren't pieces on this roster.
Oh, no.
It was why on this roster.
Oh, Michigan's supremely talented, but it just shows in college basketball. It's got to be more than that, Ashton, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure. But I think the atmosphere as well, that really helped them, especially, from the beginning of the game, the crowd was into it. And obviously, anytime you have Jaden Ivey coming into your home arena, he's box office now. Like, everybody wants to watch him, and I think they did a really good job of just rising to the occasion.
That's a really great point. T.O. makes this point all the time. Fancy, you've heard it before. Sometimes you have to learn to be the targeted team. Auburn is going through that right now. I think Purdue is going through it a little bit too.
That's life. That's life on a marathon, folks. That's college basketball. There are peaks and valleys. What people thought a month ago of Arkansas is not what they think of them tonight. What people thought of Michigan at the end of December is not what they're thinking right now. You got to be able to find a way to get to that dance floor and have your best foot ready to be forward.